everybody. Can you can you hear me? It's a little low. All right. Awesome. This is lane size, so I have to. Hey, AV, can you turn on the handhelds? Does that work? Nope. The best part about making the joke about this being lane size is that Lane made it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Check.
Is that on?
Check.
Yeah, here we go. All right.
Check.
So we are officially your last piece of content for this conference for the week. So round of applause for that. Absolutely amazing. I heard there's 700 people here at the Peak yesterday. Was that a record, Brad? Yes. Record for attendance. It's how many?
By 120.
By 120 people. Unreal. I'm going to resist the urge to make you all get up and move up in the classroom. A little bit funny? I mean, are we that much at the end of it? All right, let's get started. So my name's John Teza. I'm the CEO and president of Hand and Stone, and I'm your moderator for today's panel. Hopefully that's about the last you hear from me, because I would like to have our panel introduce themselves.
Start off. Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for sticking with us. My name's Kelsey Stuart. I'm CEO and one of the founders of Bloomin Blinds. Joined here with my brother Chris. We're a family company that grew a fairly good-sized family business and then decided to franchise. Currently 67 owners and 129 territories. We've been franchising for 8 years.
I am Shane Evans. I am co-founder and principal of Massage Heights. I'll just say what I said in the last session. I'm principal. I'm no longer CEO. I'm blessed because I got to hire one about 2 years ago. Still own the company. So I'm in sort of a great position right now.
Yes, you are. And I'm Marty Farrell. I'm from Philly Pretzel Factory. We're a Philly pretzel style soft pretzels. We have 165 stores open right now.
Okay, so this panel is the other side of the question about capital raising, right? So the whole idea is these are founders who are still largely, if not entirely, privately held. They have not done an equity deal at any point in their existence. And much to the chagrin of the private equity folks and the VC folks and the IB folks that are in the audience, this is going to largely be about how it's possible to grow a franchise system without taking on outside capital. So just by way of a little bit of context, 3 quick questions for each of you to answer. And Kelsey, we'll start with you. Overall size of your system in terms of number of units, total revenue, number of employees. How long have you been in operation? And are you currently royalty self-sufficient?
Got it. So reiteration, we like to talk about owners. I think franchising likes to talk about units and territories. We're geographically based. So 67 owners, 129 territories, 121 of them are open, but they're just waiting on their funding. So we're not brick and mortar, we're home based. So we have that benefit. Okay. You'll have to remind me of the other questions.
How many employees? How many team members?
17 team members in corporate, in the company operation.
How long have you been in operation?
We've been a franchise for 8 years.
For 8 years, okay. And are you currently royalty self-sufficient?
Almost. We went through a huge growth where it was just the 3 brothers running the franchise up until about a year and a half ago. Went through a massive growth to get ready for a lot of volume that's coming our way, or that has come, and that's where we went to 17. So at the point where we were 3, we were very royalty self-sufficient. Very. Then we did a lot of forward investing, and we dipped well below that, and we are now climbing out of that, and half of this year we have been self-sufficient. I expect next year we'll be fully.
Right on. Good on you. Shane?
So we are about 130 operating units, about 135 million system-wide sales, 20-ish territories. That includes mostly southern United States and some Midwest and a territory in Canada. Our corporate headquarters has 24 people on the team. Franchising since 2007. Been royalty sufficient for a very long time.
Good on you. Hey, Marty, just a little bit of context because I think this is an important component of our panel today. So we've got 2 founders And Marty Farrell has been a long-time kind of right-hand person to Dan DiZio, who's the founder of Philly Pretzel Factory. So we've got a really unique perspective in that we've got two founders, and we've got somebody who's been along for most of the ride with a founder who has chosen to stay independent. And so Marty's perspective is going to be a little bit different than Kelsey and Shane, but I think very, very instructive.
Sure. I'll just answer the question, and then we won't talk about that anymore. 165 stores, like I mentioned. We have about 28 corporate employees that work for us, and we are royalty self-sufficient. Just to put a pin on the royalty self-sufficient for everybody, really what it means is, can you survive with just the royalties, right? We never need to sell another franchise. We don't need franchise fees to keep us going. So that's essentially the definition. Sometimes I think we use some words in these rooms that people may not understand.
Great point. So, right, is your current royalty revenue without any other royalty, and I would say any of your ancillary fees that are replicable, right? Your non-franchise fee revenue, does it cover your SG&A, your overall operating expense? So, thank you for that. All right. So, toss up all three. I'm going to ask all three of this question, but feel free to, Shane, why don't maybe you start on this? What's your funding story? How did you get the funds to start Massage Heights?
So initial locations funded by savings, some stock, cashing out there, our kids' college funds, everything, and built the first store. Proceeds from that first store, opened the second one 9 months later with a little bit of money that we borrowed from a friend and paid right back once we got our TI money. And then from a franchising perspective, we really just kind of continued to use the funds that we had from our corporate stores to start and operate the franchise company. We were all in. My husband at the time and I both did quit our jobs and completely went all in on this. So we put everything into it. We couldn't fail. We absolutely could not fail. And then from a franchising perspective, we originally used, once we started franchising outside of San Antonio and Austin organically, we had an area developer model that really helped initially.
Can you explain that a little bit?
I will explain that it is a really great way to get some market penetration in the beginning and also cash. So an area developer model, for those of you that don't know, you might carve out a territory, a specific DMA. You have a specific number of units that you could build out in that territory based on a number of factors. Territories can be, I don't know, for us, they were anywhere from 150,000 to 350,000, depending on the number of units that could be developed in that territory. The model can be good if you've got the right developer in the market that really acts as your sales team and brings great leads for you to qualify. I think one of the caveats is, and one of the downfalls of the model is that not every salesperson is a great service person. I think we all know that. Sales and service don't always go together. And so that model, you expect your developer to also support the franchisees, and that isn't always the case. So we ended up taking back all of those territories over a period of time, buying them back.
But a pretty distinct advantage for emerging franchisor in two ways. Number one, you get to collect some capital up front, right? Most area reps or area developers, whatever you call them, will pay a fee, oftentimes per head for the territory they're acquiring, right? And then the second important component is that your expense is a variable expense, right? You don't have a fixed expense to service, to sell or service,
That's
right? It's more of a profit share. So a helpful tool to get you off the ground, particularly if you're not going to raise outside capital.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Kelsey, you want to go next?
Sure. So we had started off as just a family blind company, built it up to about $3 million a year, and so that was doing well. Wanted to expand the company, didn't want to go into company stores per se, so we moved into franchising. And we're just able to do it very nimbly. It was very much a grind. In the very early days, as we're developing probably our first 10, 15, 20 franchisees, Chris and I and my other brother were out in the field. We're out, we're in the living room selling blinds or installing and doing the repairs. And in between appointments, we're handling support calls, or I'm making phone calls to people who have, dropped a lead in Franchise Gator. And that process continued for about 3 years, where we didn't draw anything out of the business. We just slowly kept building the franchise base, and then and just kind of letting that slowly grow. Once we got to about 24, 25 locations, we knew that we kind of needed to just commit to it. And so we pulled ourselves out of the local Dallas office, put ourselves into the franchise. Still, we're living very moderately, and just slowly continued to build it. And as we continue to scale over the next couple of years, that's when the business started to get sufficient, but there were only 3 of us. The bills were very small. COVID hit, and along with that came the various funding programs, like the PPP program, and then most notably the EIDL opportunity through the SBA. And so we were able to grab $2 million at 3.75% interest over 30 years. And so we were able to use that to really propel the growth that we wanted to get into without having to give away the equity. Right. So we got a very favorable loan at a perfect time. And that's really the catalyst to go into that next level, as they say.
Shane, before we move on to Marty, what about debt for you? Was there did you take on any enterprise debt at any point?
Never any debt.
Okay. Marty, Dan's founding story is pretty well known. He's told that story
Sure.
kind of over and over again. But I'd love to hear that story from your perspective.
Sure. Well, I think what happened in the beginning of the story is, like most franchisees, he had no money. Opened the first store, credit cards and all that stuff. Same story a lot of you, I'm sure, can relate to. But was very successful, luckily, right? And hopefully you have a business that's very successful, and that's why you're thinking about franchising it. He opened a second store, not as a franchise, a third store, up to 10 stores. Had 10 successful stores operating, proof of concept that he thought about, okay, now I can start franchising this business. But I need some revenue and money. Now he had the stores that were all generating revenue and money, but needed some real cash infusion. Sold some of those stores to get some money, and then hence that's where I come along, because he could afford to pay me and other people as well. So I was actually, we had a receptionist, and that's it, me. I was employee number 1 at the company. So we had 0. We didn't have a computer. We didn't have health care. We had no 401k plans. We had nothing to start. I took a big risk. I just had a baby, actually. Well, my wife had the baby. We had a baby a month before I stepped into this position. And it was a little scary for me as well, because we were starting the brand together, but it was exciting also. And we were able to start building some of the infrastructure that needs to be built based on my experience. So Dan, knowing that he did not have a lot of franchise experience, we could say he was smart. I don't know if he was smart for hiring me, but he was smart for hiring someone that he knew could help him in the franchise space to grow the business and help with sort of lead us in the right direction. And that's essentially how he was able to grow the business.
Awesome, thanks. So 3 very unique initial funding, right, mechanisms. And I think the takeaway is, though they didn't take outside capital, all 3 of them had some sort of kind of exigent event that allowed them to fund kind of startup and beyond, right? And, hopefully once in our lifetime pandemic solvency measure, right, that put some pretty cheap capital in your hands, taking on outside third-party area developers, right, and the upfront capital that generated, and then Dan's decision to sell his original units to fund the development of the franchise of the franchise organization. So, as you think about your funding vision, right, or your funding events, like how you got to this point, I think it's critical. It's easy for us to say, hey, there's a better or a different alternative to taking on outside capital. Understand each of those are, kind of unique events. And if you are a young franchisor or thinking about franchising, you got to think about, absent one of those 3 events, how you're going to fund your initial startup. Before we go to the next question, just by show of hands, how many folks in here are franchisors? You own your company. And do me a favor, just stand up, because it's easier for me to see it this way. Stand up. Round of applause, first of all, for all of you. Stay standing, stay standing. How many of you have been franchising? If you've been franchising for longer than 3 years, stay standing. 5 years. Awesome. All right, great context. Okay, let's, next question. Let's talk about funding inflection points, right? You each went through your initial funding journey, right? But as you think about maybe, let's say the first, I don't know, maybe say first 5 years, maybe let's say first 25 or 30 units or 50 units, or then when you got to 100, what were the inflection points? And how did that affect your capital structure? I mean, if you didn't take on outside equity, how did you deal with each one of those inflection points?
Well, I'll jump on this one. So very early on, and probably much like anyone who's early in the stage, we were very much living off the franchise fee. Like, we needed to sell franchises to continue the operation, especially once we jumped out of the corporate office. We were no longer drawing money from that. We had to pay ourselves out of the franchise itself. And these are small, young units. They weren't spitting out a lot of royalties, so we were definitely dependent on franchise growth. And so there were multiple times where we kind of had to, there was these moments where we needed to evolve the business, whether we're hiring people on or acquiring a building or adding marketing to pull more people in, because at that point it's just very growth centric. And there have been many points, well, I think probably 3 distinct points, where we kind of strategically took a risk and said, look, we know we need this, we know we don't have the money for it, but I think we can kind of see that it's coming. And there was a handful of short-term measures that we took, the short-term loans where you just need a lump of cash, but you got to pay it back in like 9 weeks, that kind of thing. And, we always kind of talked about, like, from an airplane analogy, like there were just these moments where we were just kind of like, from a financial standpoint, where you were going down, but you kind of knew you were going to be able to pull it out, and man, if you did, you were just going to scrape right off the top. And we've done that because we've always been forward investors. We've always been a little bit more interested in growth than retention of the money. Just today, I was having a conversation about, are you willing to talk about investment? I'm like, well, the way we're spending for growth. We're not spending to be attractive to PE right now. And so we've progressively done that, but they just keeps getting bigger stages. But the benefit is that we keep that bottom pot where your gamble takes off. It's getting higher and higher off of the deck. But there have been, just through the growth stages, it wasn't just a significant event or a time. It was just, as you evolve and grow, you're going to have to make a choice to forward invest. And there's some element of risk that you have to measure and calculate. And sometimes you just close your eyes and pray. But otherwise, you stifle your growth and you don't really get to push the company forward.
I'm going to come back to that. Follow-up question, but I want to hear from the other panelists first.
I don't know. So I spoke about my ex-husband earlier. My ex-husband and my brother, we're all, pretty scrappy, and we come from membership-based wellness, all of us really. And my brother actually had more business experience than I or my ex-husband did. And we brought him in to help us. I'll just say, he was working for free for a long time, so we eventually made him a partner. But I'm going to say that probably up until 10 units or so, we were kind of doing everything. We were opening each of the franchise locations. We wanted to make sure they were successful, so we would go get a hotel room in, Austin, Texas or whatever, and stay there for 4 weeks instead of kind of what we do now, which is send a team out for a week. And but eventually, somewhere over 10 or so, I feel like we really had to get somebody that was really kind of an operations expert, that was taking those phone calls, being proactive with our franchisees and business planning and so on and so forth. We still had corporate stores that were cash flowing, and we continued to, utilize that money to operate and put everything back in. But if I look back, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead, if I look back, when we were at 10 units or so, and still to this day, we've had a number of people that have, wanted to partner, come in with capital, and we had an opportunity to do it, and there were some circumstances that didn't allow for that at that time. But if I look back, and the advice that I give most people these days is take on a partner that can help you strategically with the capital needed to build an experienced and seasoned team that can really help you. I think bootstrapping is great, but at a certain point, if you don't have the right team around you, the experienced franchise personnel to really come in and help your franchisees ramp up fast, it can be a growth deterrent really fast. So again, I hope I didn't step out of kind of the line of questioning, but that's something I would have done sooner. We were all willing to put in a lot of work, and we put in a lot of work. So I think you have to decide, if life balance is important to you or not. And if it's not, get in there and do the work, and don't be afraid to do it. Do everything that you tell your franchisees to do, or figure out the cash to bring other people on.
Work-life balance is not something you hear
Yeah.
spoken of much
No.
at these conferences.
So just talking about the beginning stages, the finance piece. One of the things we were lucky with, we sold franchises, right? We sold franchises, and we sold a lot of them fast. So that's where you're going to be focused. I mean, my first year with the company, we probably sold about 40 franchises. So 40 franchises, roughly $1 million, $1.2 million, somewhere in that neighborhood, right? That's cash. That was real money that we needed to hire other employees. I mean, it was great. I came on board and had franchise experience, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it myself, especially if they're selling 40 franchises. So we needed to, invest that money into hiring other people. The other thing I would just say about the beginning stages, just be super fiscally conservative. I think, I just, unfortunately, hear a lot of stories. People waste money in the beginning. You just waste the money, whether it's on programs you don't really need yet or things that you're not prepared to do. Just really think about it. Now, you also have to take Shane's advice and do it fast and make sure you have the right people and do it the right way. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're ready before you start investing this money into the programs that are out there and the things that can help you grow and manage your franchise system. And I just see people wasting money on that kind of stuff a lot.
All three of you said, go ahead.
Well, I just want to piggyback on what Shane said, because as you guys build your business, like we use a phrase in our office, you're either going to build it or you're going to buy it. And in a lot of ways, money is a tool that can speed things up. And I actually heard during lunch, one of the guys, when they're up here talking about a panel, and they're talking about how that is part of one of the benefits of an early partnership is now you have capital and resources and people around you where you can accelerate. Yeah, you don't own it all anymore, but you either build it or you buy it. It's just one of those ways.
So I want to come back to what you just said about build it or buy it, but also earlier you said in those moments where, you were coasting in on fumes, you had to decide where to invest, right? Whether and where to invest. For each of you, in those early days, how did you make that decision? What was the process by which you went through to determine whether or not to invest in a technology or to make that next hire or to open up that next territory?
Well, for us, it was all, and it still is, but it's always been an awareness that our money comes after their money. We don't get ours until they get theirs. And so we have to build out systems or make choices or improve the company to allow our franchise owners to have an opportunity or have tools to make more. We have always kind of put that at the forefront of the choices. And so when there's a pinch point or a blockade in the system and we know we can remove it, but it's going to take an investment, that's where you have to make that choice. And you always, if that's your focus, you always know it's the right idea. It's just, is it the right time? Is it the right risk and investment? And it's just it's a calculated measure. We haven't always chosen to go forward at the moment we thought of it, but we have leaned towards going after it as soon as we see it, more times than not. We're not very good at sitting still once we have an idea.
I think, I always thought of things as in terms of, well, can I go to sleep tonight? What could we have done better? What tools could we have provided that would have made our franchisees stronger, will make them stronger? And I think we did invest in a number of things early on that were probably not as necessary as other things that I thought, oh, we needed to redo the website, or we really needed to do this. But I think investing in the tools that help the franchisees be more successful, accessible learning management systems, engaging programs, things that are easy for them to implement, those types of things are more critical, for sure, we made some mistakes in making some very large investments in things that probably weren't going to drive the business that I thought were really important at the time. And for our franchisees, they probably were great, but they were sort of the shiny things and not necessarily the really important things. Post making those mistakes, I guess, it really just became about literally those things. What are going to make the franchisees more successful? It's not necessarily a brand new website. It's the operational tools. It's the things that they can provide to their teams to be successful, to do the job if they're not there.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but what are a couple of things, what are one or two examples of something that you invested in that you had best intentions that perhaps didn't play out the way you thought they were going to?
I mean, at the time, a very complicated, and it goes way back, by the way. Marketing, branding, redoing it, getting, I feel like when you think something's not working and you go to a new agency, there's always that they want to redo things, and I'm this kind of I get swept away by that stuff, and so invested in marketing and branding and things like that ultimately what we just really need to do was execute on what we had and make sure the franchisees were executing on what we had. Those are expensive endeavors, and bottom line is if they're not executing on it before, they're not going to execute on it now. So better to build the tools that help them and the franchise support that help them actually execute on what you have.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah.
One of the early things that we had to invest in was the people. Make sure we brought people in that were going to help us. I was at a conference very similar to this. Charlie Chase, who's a giant in the franchise world. This is going back 16, 17 years ago. We're sitting at a table like this. I'm saying we're just growing, we're emerging. What's one of the things you think we should invest in on people right away? He said you need to have a good accounting person. I was shocked by that answer, to be honest with you. I was thinking marketing and operations and all the things we need to support. He said you need to have a good accounting person. Went back, made sure I hired the right accounting person. She's still with us to this day. But it was smart because we didn't have any good accounting systems in place. And it's very important to be able to track the money and make sure we were getting paid the royalties and things like that. So, and that's something that's just sort of natural to us now. But at that time, it was, the founder's wife was doing the accounting and doing the books and sending invoices, typical sort of startup. So we did that, and then really focused on next was hiring a marketing person, because we knew early on that we needed to kind of focus on making sure that the franchisees felt like we were giving them some brand support right out of the gate pretty strongly as well.
Kelsey, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, yeah. One of the things that I think about and it's not directly related to investment that kind of caused a dip in your cash, but one of the things that we were slow to do is build a business structure that had enough expense in there for the owner to operate a proper business. There were several times where we took on expenses because we didn't know that they were coming, so we didn't tell them about them up front, and we felt guilty or we felt a responsibility. And so we took on expenses, or we took on thousands of dollars of subscriptions and didn't pass those on right away, or didn't encourage the owners to have the infrastructure like a bookkeeper or a higher degree of marketing. Some of those things also affect royalties because we didn't know better yet on how to guide them through building a good-sized business. So for your early franchisors, when you still have the chance to fix some of this stuff, it is far more expensive to operate a Bloomin' Blinds right now than it was 5 years, 8 years ago. But those franchisees are making a heck of a lot more money. They're more successful, and the royalties are higher because we've created this expectation of cost to run a business. And so don't go cheap on that stuff, because that also affected our ability to invest because we didn't have as much money coming in. We didn't know. So just think about it. Go home and think about it, because you're going to get more expensive as you have more operational stuff. Set that bar high so you don't have to apologize for it when you raise the price later.
It's great counsel, and maybe something, it's not necessarily relative to this particular panel, but indirectly certainly is. So I'll ask the three of you, and then I'm going to ask the franchisors in the audience. How many units did you have operating before you started to franchise?
Just the one family business.
Just the one?
Yeah. Now, we covered all of DFW, so currently that's 15 territories in modern mapping.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a...
But in terms of proof of concept, you had the one.
We had the one. It was a good big one.
Yeah.
But it was one.
Clearly. Shay?
We had 2.
You had 2.
10.
10. So show of hands, how many had more than 10 before they sold their first franchise? Raise your hand. 1. 1. More than 5? Raise your hand. Wow. More than 3? How many had 1 operating unit when they sold their first franchise? How many had 0 operating units when you sold your first franchise? Raise your hand. Okay.
That takes a good salesperson.
Yeah. No doubt about
dream.
it. But look, I asked the question because in terms of, right, I don't care how successful the first unit is, if you don't replicate that model a couple times and understand what the nuances are, even maybe twice or 3 times, you may not know where the franchisee has to investment spend to actually make it work.
Yeah, anytime I talk to somebody who's thinking about going into franchising or expanding their system, like if you live in North Carolina and you don't have an absolute roadmap detailed on how to open one in San Diego, you still have a lot of work to do. You just have to be able to do it from a distance because you're not going to be on site.
Okay, I want to go back to the question earlier about how do you know? How did you know? And I'm going to put you on the spot again. I'm sorry, this wasn't on our list of questions. Did you put a long-range financial plan in place at any stage, at any point early in your life cycle, where you said, over the next 5 years, this is what I expect it to look like, this is where this is how my expenses are going to rise, this is how my revenues are going to rise?
No.
Not early in the life cycle. Nope.
No.
No. Anybody here? Anybody? Raise your hand high, because that's super important. It's actually, and the reason I asked the question is, one of the real upsides to taking on an outside partner for capital early is that you're forced to do that, right? You're forced to do it in order to raise the capital, right? And then you have a third party that's holding you accountable to meeting those performance expectations. And so as you think about how to make decisions where to invest and when to invest, and the calculus of, do I add this body, do I add this tech platform, do I redo the website, do I open this territory, can I really support Seattle from Atlanta? Having that long-range plan in place is critical. And reality is, when did you start your business?
Well, we started our business in 2001, started franchising 2014.
In 14. And
Started in 04, franchising in 07.
First store opened in 98. First franchise was 2006.
right, the tools that we have available today, right, to be able to do that work now, as opposed to, when the 3 of you started your business, night and day. Right. So if you're sitting, you don't need to prepare to bring on an equity partner to put a 5-year financial plan in place. Right. Those tools are available to you today. I'm sure there's 5 different vendors sitting in here that can help you do that. Okay. Let's talk about a little bit of history. Let's have some fun here. Was there ever a point where you thought, damn it, I need to take on outside capital?
Certainly was. And we've never had accelerated conversations, but there were times where we thought it would be nice, it would be smart. I don't know if he's here, Jeff Duden, if he's not here. We met, had some conversations. It was before he built Homefront as a formal unit, but he was softly pitching the idea of maybe partnering together, and his comment that having somebody who's been through it before and how they can shine the light in the corners of the room. You may stand in the middle, you see your little silo of light, your little spot, but you don't know what the corners look like. You don't even know how far away the corners are because you haven't been down that path yet. And I can see a lot of value in that. It actually resonated quite a bit with us. I don't think we were structured enough. We didn't really believe that somebody would want to buy this hot mess. And so it didn't really go anywhere. But that was a very illuminating comment where I can appreciate where either experience on the team can help out quite a bit, which we still have yet to develop. We're still kind of making educated guesses at this point. But that's where I think it is. It's never been so much about the money so much. It's about the knowledge and the efficiency of getting forward.
Did you get close
To
bring on a partner?
No, never more than just an idle conversation. We've never shared financials. We've never even gone down that path at all.
So, as I mentioned earlier, we started off using, regional developer model or area rep, whatever you want to call it. These days, I think the name has changed. And so we were pretty hot when we came out, and so awarding franchises was not a problem early on, and so cash flow was not really ever a problem. And we were working the business, and so no, we didn't. We really never. We thought about it. We had people offering, but I honestly think that we got a little. The word's not cocky because we're not necessarily cocky people, but we're like, we can do this. We've done this already. What do we need that for, But I will say, same as you, is that looking back, the experience would have been really, really helpful. I think, if anything, it wasn't that we necessarily needed the cash to grow the business or to build in support so much. It was more about, if I really think about how we could have accelerated, done better, gone faster, avoided some major, major pitfalls, which is a whole nother discussion for a whole different session, it would have really just, we would have had more seasoned professionals involved, whether that be a capital partner that could offer that or, brought on some more seasoned professionals earlier on.
And yes, same. We have not had any real interest in bringing on any capital because, again, we're financially, luckily, we don't really see the need. I don't know what I do with the money, to be honest with you. I mean, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, unless we're taking the money off the table. I mean, that's the real other piece of it, right? Obviously, taking the money off the table and just saying, hey, we're getting a payday. That's a different whole conversation for, this. That's the reason most people do it.
Totally.
I don't know Kelsey's business quite as well, and if you're comfortable, share it. If you're not, please don't. But I have a sense for where Shane and Marty's businesses are, and from an EBITDA perspective, well into the range where they could go do a private equity deal that is, multiples that are at least double digit, if not higher. I mean, we're talking, well into the mid and high digit.
I might change my mind. Hold on.
EBITDA businesses. How much was that, John?
Yeah. So just to put it in perspective in terms of like that they haven't done a deal yet, any one of these three of these folks could talk to any one of the PE folks that were here this week and be on the path to doing a deal. So they've literally chosen not to.
Well, in our end, we've got two headwinds in front of us. One, we've just spent the last 2 years. We took on $2 million in debt to fund a lot of growth. We are climbing back into royalty sufficiency. So to try and sell your business when you're not at a high profit level, that you're just giving away money if you're doing that. So we're definitely not in that position. And then there's 4 owners. There's mom and then 3 boys. And so we've always had this really long-term perspective on our growth curve because whatever we do, if or when that exit comes, we instantly have to cut it in a quarter.
Right.
And that's always just put that goal way down the road. Right. Because we have to go 4 times further than the average founder.
That's a great point. Great point. Can you think of a point in your history where you wish that you had taken on some capital, where you either had to make a decision that you felt was compromised because you didn't have capital available to you, or you felt like there was a investment that you could have made had you decided to take on a partner?
I guess I'll just stay in order, but
Trying to think.
yeah, I think the idea is romantic. Everyone wants to be picked. Everyone wants to be valued. There's this, I can go stay in the Bahamas for 2 months kind of fantasy that goes along with it. But that's always just been kind of a romanced idea. Again, if we really needed it or wanted it, we could have attracted some attention. We could have, groveled and begged. But it never needed it that bad. And I think we always just had a confidence that we were going to make our way through it. And so it wasn't worth going through the trouble. I will also say, having a couple friends right now who are in deep conversations for what I'm assuming will be very sizable opportunities, that they've talked to a handful of different PE opportunities, and each time they they've learned so much about what that process looks like, how to prepare for it, and how to protect yourself in the middle of it. So there's also this barrier of knowledge, because it's not just as simple as, hey, do you want to buy me? You know, this is how much. It seems to be a very complicated matter, and I only hear that from the outside. But that's also a barrier that, for all the things that I have going on and all the hope I have in front of me, do I really want to get distracted in front of all of, you know, and go that direction and get buried in a bunch of data if I'm not really sure I want to do it yet?
Having just gone through it, it took a year. From start to finish, it took a year. And it was indescribably disruptive to the business. That's just the reality. Right now, ours, you know, we're a very mature company, and we were already private equity held and sold to another private equity firm, but it was incredible. And Lane's nodding his head up and down. Right? Lane's our counsel. He knows exactly how disruptive it was. So, Jane.
I have two partners, and I guess I wish that we would have explored it probably 10 years ago, when one of the partners really sort of checked out. So if anything, to buy one of the partners out, maybe two of the partners, but not for any reason other than one is just from a lifestyle perspective was really ready to get out. Unfortunately, the one partner was not reasonable with what they were looking for. It's just like arbitrary number. Like, where are you getting that? Well, you're going to stay along for the ride a little bit longer. So I guess that would have been probably the one reason that we would have done it, but we just didn't pursue it. I think, you know, bottom line is, and look, I've never been down that road, and John, you can validate this, but I think everybody's got to be on the same page with what the number is and reasonable what that is and all of that too. So that would have been the reason for us.
Again, we really didn't think about it. We didn't think about it. No, we were okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the implications of not taking on a partner. So we talked about decision making and, you know, how you make decisions about where to invest. How do you think about building your teams from an internal or an external standpoint relative to your kind of equity situation? Do you think about third-party solutions and outsourced solutions more, or are you building your team internally?
Well, for us, we've always wanted things that were beyond our reach. We like to stay on the forefront. We happen to be, for a window covering company, we're very tech forward. It's not probably the most traditional approach, but it's working. And to get some of the more advanced partners, vendors, technology, we didn't have the capital to go ahead and grab it and bring it internally. We didn't have the people to manage it, and we didn't have the skill set. I mean, like my brothers and I, we don't have an MBA. Before I was in a blind company, I was a bartender. And so we've had to learn. We're from the school of hard knocks. We're the street smart, not necessarily the book smart. And so to manage, an in-house CMO or an in-house CFO, I wouldn't know if they're telling me the truth or not. I wouldn't know if they're doing a good job or not, at least at that point. And so we outsourced a ton of stuff, web development and marketing and CFO and any accelerated service or vendor partner that we knew we couldn't manage or afford in-house. Then we took kind of that fractional approach, because you get most of the benefit. You won't get all the benefit, but you get most of the benefit with half the cash. And we've been very lucky with our selection by and large, and that's been nice. We finally got to this critical point where we can support the debt so that we could go out and buy our way forward. We've always been a build it company, and then we had this opportunity where we could jump forward and buy our piece. And that also was a good decision. So we're not just hey, you have to build it and grind it out. It's whatever opportunity is the best in the moment right in front of you. But we did a lot of outsourcing. Still do.
We have in the past outsourced finance. So we had a fractional CFO. We have in the past outsourced branding, marketing. We had a fractional chief brand officer at one point, outsourced real estate, construction. But in the last 2 years, since I stepped away from operating the company, a couple of those things are still outsourced, the real estate piece, but we've really built a team for growth. Pretty much everything is in-house.
Was the decision to outsource all those areas based on capital constraints, or would you have made that decision otherwise?
I think, like, for us, if you think about the business at the time, it wasn't that complicated. And so while we had internal accounting, for instance, for, AR and so on and so forth, we didn't necessarily need a high-level person, and so it didn't really make sense. From a branding perspective, I think, again, for the size of our brand, if you think about the needs, we wanted somebody more strategic. And I guess really couldn't really afford the person that was more strategic and more seasoned. And so hiring a third-party fractional chief brand officer, if you will, made sense for the strategy side of things.
Our focus is obviously to bring people in to work for us and work with us, but there's services that are out there that you can get at a better price with a better support, better expertise, then you're going to be able to afford to bring them in, such as PR as an example, social media management, website development. These are things you most likely, and I would have done that today, and we still do it today, and I would have done it from the beginning. So there's certain services that make sense to just consistently pretty much outsource. Maybe when we get bigger, we can bring some of these services inside, but that was sort of the decision, and then just really focus on bringing the team in that was going to really have the day-to-day activity with franchisees.
Another piece to throw on that is when you outsource, especially if it's going to some level of an agency more than just an individual, you get kind of a collective mindset that because they're an agency and they work for other clients, they have there's a driver to stay up to date. If you hire someone internally, you get the value of that one person, and you could build the culture and you build the relationship and you get like their undivided attention, but then you are dependent on how far that person progresses within their industry. So there's pros and cons, and if we've gone different ways on different pieces, but that's where you evaluate the different pieces to see where, like one marketing person versus an agency.
Agreed.
Yeah, you can make a lot of argument that an agency is going to stay on top of the trends more than a singular person.
But safe to say that your decisions to either outsource or build within were not driven by capital constraints relative to not taking on a partner.
Ours were in some regard, because you have to be able to hold it. Because again, if you're going to bring in an extra, a C-suite or a VP level person, you want somebody with skills, and you want someone who's going to be expensive, frankly. Yeah. And sometimes on those fractional services, you can get great service for a reduced rate. You just don't have their undivided attention. So there's pros and cons to both sides, but there were definitely times that it was capital-driven choice.
So we've got just a little more than 10 minutes left. I'm going to ask one more question of each of the panelists, but I would love to open it up to Q&A from you as well. So as they're answering these questions, make sure you're listening, but give a quick think to any questions that you might have yourself. So Marty, we'll start with you this time.
I was forgetting the question by the time it got down to me last time anyway. So.
No,
I did that too. I almost asked you.
Certainly no crystal balls, right? We don't know what the future environment is going to bring. But do you see Philly Pretzel Factory bringing on a partner at some point? And is there some event in the future that may drive the timing?
Listen, never say never. I think there's a possibility, and I think the biggest potential would be that you're going to start this brand. When you get to where we're at, it's nice. And obviously, the founders, there's two founders, Dan, and he's a minority partner as well. They've made money over the years out of this business, but they're at some point going to say, we need a payday. There's that payday at the end, and that may be a decision they're going to make at some point. And, again, or it could be sort of what Shane mentioned, that minority partner. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to sort of get that partner out of the business if he wants to at that point as well.
As I described earlier, I'm in a pretty sweet seat. So for me, I still get the benefit of owning the company without having to operate in the day-to-day, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy continuing to give input on vision and innovations and all of that, and to be associated with the brand that I founded. It would really be, it definitely could happen. It's really for me. I am the one person as an owner that has put blood, sweat, and tears into it consistently over all the years. And so I'm probably tied to the brand a little bit more than the other two partners. And I'd like to probably, again, I want to get one partner out that wants to be out, right? Not because I want him out, but want to help that person have the exit that they want and honor them for that. And look, if it ends up the right deal where the whole company goes, that's one thing. But, I'm not in a big hurry right now. It's got to be right, so.
I think our tolerance for the concept has evolved over time. Certainly in the early days when franchise owners were buying into our family, quite literally, it's just myself and my two brothers running the whole thing. We're their support, we're their phone calls, we're their trainers, we're their everything. And there's a lot of loyalty in those legacy owners that are like adamantly, I bought into this family. And so we started off enjoying that and really holding that up as a flag. I think the natural evolution of a business, whether it be a franchise owner or a franchisor, any business, and even an independent, you build it and you monetize it. So I absolutely think it's going to come someday. In my current mindset and the way that I handle it when opportunities or calls or cold emails come in, and I've proposed this to probably 15 different cold calls, if you will. And it's, if you can tell me how this partnership is going to make my franchise owners' lives better, you have my interest. Nobody has been able to articulate anything other than internalized systems or better infrastructure in the corporate environment. No one has ever been able to tell me how some guy in St. Louis is suddenly going to have a better business because of that partnership. If anyone can answer that question in a convincing way, I'm open to a conversation to listen, but it hasn't been answered yet.
I was watching your brother the entire time you were answering that question to see if he felt the same way.
Yeah, he's telling me what to do.
So before you're, just kind of in closing, before we get to the questions, I would tell you, I've been a part of leading $3 billion brands. In my career, I've been super fortunate to be a part of 3 brands that have, kind of reached or in the process of reaching that value. There's all 3 of them founder-led. There's no path. There's no set path. There's no formula. The second of the 3, the individual had an opportunity and was very close to selling the business for $25 million in 2010. Didn't, and that business is now worth more than $6 billion. Chose not to partner with outside capital. The brand I'm fortunate enough to lead today, the founder not only realized that he needed to bring on a partner to help him really scale the business, he effectively granted this partner, my predecessor in this role, a significant amount of equity. And then they together decided to take on an equity partner, took a bunch of chips off the table, funded the future growth, and we turned around and sold the company last year for nearly $1 billion. 2 very divergent paths, right? 2 incredibly successful organizations, and 2 groups of folks that sat in the exact chair that you're in right now, trying to make the same decision you're trying to make about how to proceed from an equity standpoint. So, best advice I can give you is get as educated as you can, talk to as many folks that are willing to talk to you, utilize the resources that they bring to bear, and then and make the best decision that you can for you and your family and your organization at the time. So with that, Q&A.
It is really remarkable what you guys have accomplished without getting outside money. My question is, if you had to, in today's market environment, it seems like you're in a very comfortable space, and why rock the boat? But if you had to significantly accelerate your business in today's market without taking outside capital, how would you do it, or where would you be looking? What would you be thinking about?
Why didn't I ask that question?
He asks very good questions, I've noticed.
Better questions, yeah.
I think in our current spot, considering we just invested so much and we're still teetering on that sufficiency standpoint, our greatest opportunity for acceleration is working within the franchisees to grow market share, to grow brand recognition. That being said, we just got done with a whole bunch of capital investment. So we're still, I guess we have a spending problem apparently. But again, these capital investments are all franchisee growth specific endeavors. I don't think that I have the bandwidth right now to significantly launch the company forward. We've used most of the available ammunition that is disposable, for discretionary choices and whatnot. We're going to have to, we've built it, now we got to let it mature. That'll give us the resources to go do it again. But we are just in that trough of in-between growth stages in this particular question.
We're kind of in the same. We're seeing, after 2 years of the new CEO, I think it takes a little time for the franchisees to buy into somebody other than the founder that they bought into, and to trust them and to trust the team and see what they're all about from a cultural perspective and all of that. And so our growth, we did more deals in 2020 during COVID than we did after she became CEO, right? And that's finally starting to ramp up again. Because I think the franchisees were just waiting to see, what's this going to look like? I bought into the founder, you're not the founder. And she's proven herself. And what we're seeing is, more deals with franchisees internally, so that's good. We are in, an interesting state, I think, as an industry, specifically in our industry. And, I do think that there's a perception that perhaps this type of industry did not do well through a recession or do well through a pandemic, which is absolutely opposite. And so finding ways to tell that story and reposition the brand to ramp up external franchise development again has really been our focus, with the stability that we've had in the transition and the focus on the core and all of that. And so we've just started actually really investing in external franchise development again, and really hope to accelerate the growth again there. I don't know that it will ever be the way it was in the beginning. And I think one piece of advice that I would give to emerging brands is, look, you have certain windows in the lifespan of your brand, and certain opportunities. And so, if you go fast and you get a lot of development early on, again, make sure you have the infrastructure to support those franchisees. Because as the stores start opening, if they're not satisfied and the validations aren't coming in, your development's going to slow down, and it's just going to be, it's just harder, right? And so taking advantage of those times when you're primed for growth, and you're new. When you're sort of a legacy brand, for those of you that are working with brokers or what have you, you just don't see the referrals that you would in the early stages of the brand. You're not the shiny new thing. You're not the first or second to market. You're not all those things. So just, really, really hunkering down and focusing on that growth and focusing on really, really bringing in the right team to support those franchisees early so that you get that continued momentum.
I'll just be quick. I mean, again, the infrastructure that we've built is set for us to see accelerated growth if we choose to, right? I mean, we could open 25 to 50 stores, no problem, with this staff we have. We know we can do this. So, if we were seeing some hypothetical accelerated growth of 100 stores, which we choose not to do, but say we had that, again, we just add more employees. It wouldn't be that difficult to do. And we'd be taking in more franchise fees again, obviously, so that's where we would be able to fund them from it. So
we have 19 seconds left, and the leadership of Springboard is over there like with a big hook. So
they want to get out.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's amazing you guys are in here this late. So thank you to the panel.